Few things can be beautiful and terrifying at the same time. The ocean is a prime example of something like that. Every time I've visited one of the world's oceans, it's filled me with awe, but the idea of getting into deeper water is a thought I will not entertain. The idea of helplessly bobbing up and down with the waves while there's an infinite possibility below me is terrifying. Needless to say, you won't see me deep-sea fishing anytime soon. And if you see me floating around in open water, know something has gone terribly wrong.
Rim him! I'm sorry, rim him!
Funny enough, I have a friend who's a pussy just like me, and he's been begging me to play a very specific game ever since we discovered this common fear. For almost 2 years, he's asked me to play the survival game Subnautica, and to be honest, I had my hesitations. I'm not the biggest survival game fan, and I didn't expect much when I finally booted it up. Imagine my surprise when I ended up enjoying it, and became very excited to do this video. With that, I'd like to make you aware that this video will also be doubling as a Subnautica Steam Deck review. I will explain why this is when we get to the presentation section of the review, but until then, let's take a look at the story.
There's always the view.
Subnautica begins with players assuming control of a soon-to-be-named cosmonaut. Through a series of unfortunate events, you crash land on an ocean-covered world, so you climb out of the top of your escape pod to see how fucked you are, and you quickly realize
Who's proper fucked now then?
there is nothing but water as far as the eye can see, so the player has two choices: either start swimming and learn how to survive, or accept your fate and start procreating with the locals. Apart from a few set pieces, you won't have a lot of story handed to you, so you must learn it through audio logs and scans. I expected this to be tedious, but it was quite satisfying. I felt almost like an archaeologist uncovering the mysteries of this aquatic hellscape. When the credits finally rolled, I didn't feel like the story was the highlight of my experience, but it was a very welcomed one. The overall satisfaction in this game comes from surviving on the planet 4546b against all odds, so let's take a look at that with Subnautica's gameplay. Players can expect the early gameplay loop of Subnautica to cycle as such: jump in water, gather resources, scan crash sites for blueprints to craft, rinse and repeat until you're hungry or thirsty. This may sound boring, and it very well could have been if it wasn't for the developers focusing so heavily on progression. It's masterfully done. Players start with basically nothing, and through you become very proficient at surviving on the planet, and even more impressive, you do this without much help. With a handful of logs and a scanning tool, you not only survive, but thrive in this hostile environment. Well, most of the time. Players can expect to make their own home in this world, and they'll be able to customize it to their exact liking. There is an end goal to Subnautica, but if you want to play it like Minecraft Survival and just build habitat after habitat, you're more than able to do that. I've seen some cool examples of this, and someone with an architectural mindset could have a field day with this mechanic. And I have to say, by the end, you become a master of the sea. Despite this ocean feeling unmappable, by the end it feels much smaller, because
I'm the captain now.
there isn't a lot I want to complain about here, and that's surprising because, like I said earlier, I'm not a survival game fan usually, but Subnautica's progression just really hit with me. Of course, the gameplay can't be completely perfect. For example, the crafting is a bit clunky, and this is most prominent when you need to craft the same item multiple times. Instead of just queuing up the amount you want, players are required to select them individually, and to say this becomes a pain in the ass by hour 25 is an understatement. Also, some items can be depleted with use, batteries being the primary example. Even when they are depleted, you can still use them to craft other items, but if you have other batteries that are full, there is no guarantee when you craft them that the game will grab the depleted batteries. Unless you take the charged item out of your inventory, or it just happens to be placed higher than the other items, then you can't expect it to be crafted, which will effectively waste it. It's a bit of a nitpick, especially since later you get a charging station for your batteries, so you don't really have to worry about crafting new ones. But a lot of what you do in this game is crafting, so I don't feel like it's unreasonable to want a little bit more focus on this aspect. Besides that, the gameplay felt perfect to me. But it wasn't just the gameplay that made me love this game so much. It was also the excellent presentation. Alright, should we talk about it? Why did I do this review on my Steam Deck? Why not just use your normal rig? Listen, my main setup is a little dated at this point, and I have this problem where it will just cut to black while I'm playing. I'll be having a good time, everything will build up, and Tony will just look up and fuck all. Obviously, it's time for me to upgrade my equipment, but there's just one problem with that. I'm broke. But I became very inspired to do this video, and I didn't want the inspiration to go to waste, so what's one to do? I know, I'll just play through it on my Steam Deck and claim that it's a Steam Deck review. Big brain time. For a moment, please take a look at these Steam Deck performance specs. Ooh, ah, yes.
Impressive.
Very nice.
In all seriousness though, the game runs pretty well on deck. I wasn't able to hit 60 frames, but I would hover around 40 with no stuttering. This was in desktop mode and handheld, but the unfortunate thing about handheld is I only got 3 hours of battery life at most, so you're going to want to carry around a charger with a portable battery. All that being said though, you should be playing Subnautica on your Steam Deck if you have one. Just expect some pop-in and collision issues. It's not as bad as what you see on last-gen hardware, but it's still very noticeable, and there is the occasional rough outline around a character model. For the sake of comparison, here's some footage of the game running on Steam Deck and some footage of the game running on my friend's rig. His setup consists of a GTX 1080, i7 processor, and 32 gigabytes of RAM.
Launch in 3, 2, 1. Launch in 3, 2, 1. New creature discovered.
Even though I did my playthrough on Steam Deck, I thought this game was absolutely beautiful. God rays will shine through the water's surface, accentuating these beautiful and unique biomes, and the sound design only adds to the immersive feeling you get while playing this. Hearing a creature's call off in the distance along with the subtle sound of vast ocean puts one into a state of bliss. Or terror.
Come on! Come on! Enemy, no! Enemy, no, back!
There isn't a lot of voice acting in the game besides the sexy British lady who is constantly stressing about
Oxygen.
when it does pop up. The performances are very well done. The developers totally could have phoned this part of the game in, but they didn't.
Tell Becky I'll just take the regular.
The regular.
Yeah, she'll know what I mean. The code should
And
be...
if she doesn't,
Just tell her the regular, dude.
okay.
The
If
code...
I say regular, she's like, what's the regular? I have to come all the way back up here.
Hell, they even took the time to make the wildlife interact with each other. I was under the impression that all the creatures in this game only fuck with you, but that's not the case. I swam up on some nautical gang violence between a gas pod and some stalkers. Effort in making this world feel alive shines through, and I appreciate the developers for taking the time to program something like this. So here's a heavy salute to the guys over at Unknown Worlds Entertainment. They have managed to craft a unique and compelling experience. If you would have asked me before starting Subnautica if I'd ever enjoy a survival game, I would have given you a firm no, but I've never been so happy to be wrong. Please give it a shot if you haven't. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. I know I was.